What's up, guys? This is EJ Holland with thewolverine.com, and we are back with another Wolverine live show. This time a special signing day edition, which means I had to bring on our good buddy Ethan McDowell, who is our other recruiting reporter at the Wolverine. It's been a crazy signing day today. Ethan, how are you feeling? Your first signing day on the Michigan beat.
Different pace to it, man. I don't think we went into this expecting anything close to this amount of chaos and twists and turns. And there were really just a couple of guys we were monitoring closely going in. But man, it's been an exciting day.
And right when I asked you that, Salisi Moa, top 100 athlete who visited Michigan over the weekend, just flipped from Tennessee to Utah. So he is off the board. We'll be talking about what's left here for Michigan, giving you updates on the signees that came in today and things of that nature. Before we do, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos. And as always, subscribe to thewolverine.com. It's $1 for 2 days. It's the perfect time to subscribe. They just changed the offer to 2 days. So $1 for 2 days over at thewolverine.com. It's the perfect time to subscribe because, we still have some moving parts here on National Signing Day. So if you want to stay updated, go ahead and go over to thewolverine.com and subscribe for even more information. Plus, we have thoughts and, all types of information on all of Michigan signees. All right. So we did have, before we, just start discussing things, we did have a $20 super chat from Wolverine Casual, who says, "Thank you both for all that you do. Good luck buying a new phone." Yeah, we'll get to that story in a little while. But Wolverine Casual also sends in a $5 question, and he says, "Level of concern with Savion Hyder. Update seemed reassuring, but a little weird to iron out contract details in the 11th hour." I'll take this one. I think that right now I'm not very concerned at all. I just got a positive text from Savion's dad, Rod, who I've known, throughout the last couple of years, that everything's good to go on their end. Everything's good to go on the Michigan side as well. So I'm expecting Savion to put an end to this process here very soon at some point in the net. I know Steve Wilfong reported tomorrow morning. Rod hasn't confirmed that with me yet. But I do expect it to come to an end here in the next 24 hours. I think getting that text from Rod was very reassuring to me. And then, I also got a text from a key source in this recruitment on the Michigan side. And I know they're feeling very optimistic here as well. So I would say concern level with Savion is low. I'm not sure what the reason was for the delay. I have not been told that. But the overarching good news here is that we expect Savion to sign with Michigan here during the early signing period. And that's the most important part. Who cares how it gets done as long as that letter gets in?
Exactly.
But Ethan has been all over the Julian Walker recruitment, and Wolverine Casual says, "How are you feeling on Julian Walker and Zion Robinson? 50-50 on each, 60-40 one way or the other. Do you think we'll know the outcome on all three tomorrow?" Ethan, go ahead and answer on Julian Walker. What are you hearing there?
Yeah, he had some kind of unexpected twists and turns to his recruitment. We had heard last night that he was going to wait until Thursday to sign. That wasn't really a surprise. They got back from Columbia Monday morning after wrapping up the visit on Sunday, and everything from there felt so rushed, right? And they just wanted to slow things down. They wanted to take a minute. Remember, Julian's father is on the strength and conditioning staff at South Carolina, so he wasn't at Michigan this weekend because he was with the South Carolina football team. So they've only really had a couple of days to be back together post this really important visit to kind of talk through all their options, and they just wanted another day to do so. The unexpected thing that made me, have to rush and, reach out to some sources and made me concerned really for the first time in weeks about Julian's recruitment was apparently UNC's surprise surge in this race. They've always kind of been on the periphery. He did take a game day visit there, but things got a lot more real with North Carolina today. Bill Belichick reached out to Julian directly. There's a consistent dialogue between the Tar Heels and the Walker family that's going to continue for the rest of today. I'd put them up there, maybe not quite in the same tier as Michigan and South Carolina for him right now, but they're close. They're a legitimate contender now. So as far as percentages go, I've been sticking with 60-40 in favor of Michigan for a little while now, and I'm going to stay with that. We'll see the next few hours, really. There's going to be some very important conversations in the Walker household, and we should know more pretty soon. But I'm still cautiously optimistic that Walker will be a Wolverine.
I kind of feel the same way about Zion Robinson. I'd probably go 60-40 Michigan. I might be a little more concerned about Julian Walker. I don't know. It's close. I think both are kind of similar. They're still up in the air, and there's still schools that are major threats. With Zion, this one was really interesting, just tracking down information this morning. Initially, we heard Texas had some contact, so there was some preliminary interest there. But then we kind of figured out that Texas wasn't really pushing all that hard today. So then we started checking around, asking about SMU, which had shown some interest as well. TCU made sense because his father is a track coach at TCU. He's a TCU legacy. Didn't get much there. He is mentored by Michael Crabtree, who's a Texas Tech legend. So I thought, maybe Texas Tech would make a run. And at the end, we figured out that Stanford is the biggest threat to Zion Robinson, or to Michigan right now, to flip Zion Robinson. Now, earlier in the day, I was feeling like this was a true 50-50. It seems like there's a little bit more optimism now coming out of Michigan, which is certainly positive. This isn't over yet. Obviously, it won't be over until he signs his letter. So Michigan will continue to battle Stanford. Stanford just hired a new head coach. Their general manager is Andrew Luck, and it has been very aggressive on the recruiting trail and making hires, I guess, of his own. So, Stanford really wants Zion. It's a great academic school. Zion's a terrific student in the classroom. I don't think a lot of people know this, but Zion was actually born in California. So he does have ties to the state of California. And then he spent most of his, childhood in Ohio before moving to Texas. So I think right now it's an interesting situation. I think Michigan, like with Travis Johnson, can find a way to get this done and keep Zion in the class. They absolutely want him. And I think Michigan will, have the proper conversations from an NIL standpoint and answer whatever other remaining questions he has. So overall, I think that, it's tight, but Michigan can certainly pull it off here. As much craziness as we've had today, Ethan, Michigan still hasn't lost a recruit.
About that. For everything that's happened, and you look at like college football wide, I was on the phone with a reporter from another school recently, and they're just talking about how just wild this signing day is in general. But I mean, they're still the 12th ranked class right now. They haven't lost anybody yet. It's certainly not been a disastrous day despite all the hand wringing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's get into some questions from the others. And again, guys, if you just want to skip the line, you can leave a super chat. Zachary, we do have a super chat here. Michigan pushing for Brady Marchie's wide receiver who's committed to Georgia, has not signed with Georgia, I believe. Guys, I've been all over the place, man. My phone broke at Travis's ceremony, and I just got it back. Like, I just got it fixed. I mean, the back is still really messed up, but the front is fixed, and that's all that matters because it works. I just got off the phone with Steve Wilfong right before we started this show, and he told me to do some digging on that. He does believe that Michigan is involved. I have not been able to do any digging of my own, to be completely honest.
So right now, EJ, sorry to interrupt you. It looks like he tweeted November 30th that he was signing at 3 on December 4th, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So the
Okay.
delay in signing doesn't seem like a huge surprise, but I mean, dude, we can talk about it. Like in June, it got pretty close. Like
It was
Brady
close in
was
June.
almost in the class at one point this summer.
It was very close in June, and that's I'll pass it over to you, Ethan, because you were kind of on top of that recruitment before he ended up siding with Georgia. But from talking to Wilfong, again, I don't have intel of my own. I haven't had a chance to look into this one yet, especially since as soon as I got the phone back, I was trying to get the Hyder situation cleared up first. But I can say that Steve said there is interest. He told me to pass along that he, believes Michigan is a true contender in this one. So it's one we'll have to track. And like I said, he's a kid that Michigan has familiarity with. And, Ethan, you mentioned he almost ended up in the class. I mean, have you gotten anything here while I've been out of pocket with PhoneGate?
No, nothing new on Brady. I'm kind of with you. I've been, just trying to keep track of everything going on. I haven't been able to really ask around on him. But this summer, I mean, he popped up on campus as a surprise official visitor. I believe that first official visit weekend, that May 30th weekend, and the official visit went really well. You started to hear more rumblings. He's from Cartersville. Like, if you're a kid from Cartersville with a Georgia offer, unless you're Bear McWhorter, you usually go to Georgia. And it got really close to that. There was a point where we had predictions in for Brady to flip to Michigan. And there was just a lot of confidence from all sides that Brady would end up being a Wolverine and he'd be one of the guys to really get the 2026 class rolling. And then it suddenly reversed. And he ended up, sticking with Georgia. I don't know really what changed there, but it got really close the first time around. So I don't know. That's interesting. I might send out some text while you're answering the next question, man. I hadn't really thought much about Brady and the potential for a flip.
Yeah, that's one we'll have to continue to track. Definitely something that popped up courtesy of our national analyst, Steve Wilfong. We have another super chat. McIntyre says, why did Michigan have so much trouble getting the NLIs, but every other top 15 class had almost all theirs in early? I don't know, man. I mean, some of the missing letters were guys were having ceremonies later in the day. So it wasn't like Markel Dabney, his ceremony was always scheduled for 3:00. Aiden Reeder had one scheduled at
1:30,
1:30, whatever it was. So some of them were just delays with they actually wanted to sign their letters at their ceremonies. Some of the others, I think, have been some NIL negotiating. Michigan has responded well. Again, as much negativity as we've had today, they still haven't lost anybody. So I think, it was just kind of a mix of different factors. But again, the good news is they haven't lost anybody. And, we'll have full clarity on the guys that are missing, hopefully by tomorrow. Zachary Pizzo said, we have another super chat. Preston Johans 199 says, what about Calvin Russell? So Calvin Russell, the 4-star wide receiver, formerly 5-star wide receiver, committed to Syracuse over Michigan this summer in a really weird recruitment. He did not sign with Syracuse today. I think that from what I've been able to gather, there has been some contact with representation of Calvin Russell. They obviously have familiarity from their recruiting in the summer, but I don't think that as of, a couple of hours ago before the Travis Johnson ceremony, so a few hours ago, I was told that Michigan is not all in on NIL with Calvin Russell right now. So it's one that could change. If Michigan's exploring Brady Marchese, maybe they explore Calvin Russell a little bit more as well. But I think that one ended very poorly this summer. I don't know if, there's still some bad feelings there about how his commitment went down. I mean, it at one point was very close, and it looked like Calvin Russell was going to commit to Michigan. And then obviously that didn't happen. We had the whole delay with his party in Miami that was wild. But anyway, the point is right now, I'm not expecting Michigan to go all in, but I wouldn't rule it out. It's just one that, we're going to have to continue to monitor. But another interesting tidbit is he is, from what I've heard, is still expected to sign during the early period. So maybe we'll know a little bit more on Calvin Russell tomorrow. Zachary Pizzo said, are we in it for Salisi Moa? Like I said, he already flipped to Utah, so Michigan out of it. Zachary also said, should we be worried about Savion or Marky Walbridge? I addressed Savion earlier. I think Michigan is, in a great spot to keep him. The expectation is he will sign with Michigan before the end of the early period. Now, Ethan, while all this was going on, Marky Walbridge did send in his letter, correct? He is now in.
Yeah, he's signed, official, done. We're all good there. Marky, as you can attest, man, he's just a quiet kid who really showed zero interest in the recruiting process and, recruiting media and the flash and of all of this, and, just doing his own thing. There was no issues that we were aware of, at least. And, I think he was just marching to the beat of his own drum. And he's one of my favorite players in the class. I saw him live this fall and absolutely loved what he showed on the field. So I'm glad that's all official now.
Zachary Pizzo also asked what went down with Travis Johnson. Was Virginia Tech just throwing him a bag? I would say that, it was kind of a mix of things. Yes, Virginia Tech definitely expressed some heavy interest on the NIL front and did make a run in that arena, but Michigan was able to combat that. Michigan's always had a great working relationship with Travis's agent, Latish Kinsler, and I think that paid dividends here down the stretch. So, Travis also had familiarity with James Franklin, who recruited him at Penn State. Franklin's trying to do everything he can to lock down, the state of Virginia and make a big splash now that he is the head coach for the Hokies. So I think, again, it was kind of a mix of that. It did get close today, but Michigan was able to fend off Virginia Tech. And, it's funny because again, I didn't have my phone, so I was trying to take pictures with my camera and then put the memory card in the computer and type the updates simultaneously on this really crappy Wi-Fi. But it was funny because Travis walked in, and as soon as he walked in, Michigan announced that he signed, and it was really no drama. He just walked in with Michigan gear, and I took a photo and posted it as well. Like, he just sat down and signed with Michigan, didn't even talk about, didn't have hats on the table, didn't even talk about Virginia Tech until he was asked about it by me. But he just got to business, was glad to get it over. He told me he is happy that it's done and that he still fully believes in the vision that Michigan has for him. And he's still confident in Bryce Underwood at quarterback. So he's ready to get to work. He'll be enrolling early at Michigan this winter. And while I was at that ceremony, so I got out of my car, and as soon as I got out of my car, I fumbled the phone and somebody was backing out, and I was like, no. So they slightly ran over it, but not to the point where the phone was not recoverable. And like I said, the back of my phone is a nightmare, but they were able to replace the screen. It does not display the time anymore, but as long as it gets me through the next 24 hours, I'll probably go get a new phone at some point. But being without a phone during National Signing Day, not a spot you want to be in as a recruiting reporter. Brendan Pagel says, who's the best commit signee that you don't think enough people are talking about? Ethan, why don't you take this one?
I mean, I'd go with Marky. We were just talking about him. I know you had been pretty high on him in the past. So when I went up to go see him play, I was like, all right, this is someone that's probably going to play a little bit above his ranking. He plays in New England. It's not the strongest level of competition, but the game I went to go see him, he was going up against rivals 300 defensive lineman Carter Gooden, and a really really good Tabor Academy squad. And dude, man, he is just really impressive. He is a legit, I think 6'5.5" might be selling him a little short. I'd say probably upwards of 6'6". Still very lean, has a lot of room to add weight to his frame. And he's mean. I talked to he played against Michigan quarterback commit Peter Bork that day. I talked to Peter after the game, and I asked him, are you excited to have Markey blocking for you instead of trying to sack you? Because he also played nose tackle in this game. And Pete said, yeah, because he's a mean effing dude. Ready to have him on my side. And that showed up. He was, driving kids into the sideline, into the bench area, knocking stuff over. Like, he was playing hard and is just really athletic, very light on his feet for his size. And just really like long athlete too. He blocked 2 goals, EJ, just putting his arm up like he was blocking a basketball shot in the in this game. I don't think I've really seen that before. So that was really impressive. I think I'd have him in like the top 150 if I was ranking him. I'm really, really high on Markey, and Michigan was too. He was a plan A top priority tackle for them the whole cycle.
I've liked Markey since I saw him last year. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten an updated evaluation like Ethan, but I thought he impressed when I saw him out in New England at his showcase last spring. The guy I would go with is Markel Dabney. I've been high on him for a while. Michigan did not land a highly touted linebacker this cycle. That was one of the big misses, in my opinion. But I think they have a really high upside prospect in Markel. He's certainly not a polished linebacker. He's more of a guy who's been a positionless athlete throughout his high school career, playing running back, wide receiver, nickel, safety, and linebacker. But I think the positive thing about that is he's been able to showcase just how athletic he is. He's a guy who can run sideline to sideline. Like I said, he played nickel and safety. He's very comfortable in pass coverage, and he's added some really good weight. He's listed at 210. He's probably closer to 220 right now. Great kid as well. A captain for a Huguenot team that only allowed 5 points per game this year. So I think that, as much as the linebacker class is disappointing, I think they got a true gem in Markel Dabney. All right, we have a super chat. Preston Johans 199 says, any additional Michigan pushes you know of? Like I said, our national analyst, Steve Wilfong, has given us the tip that Michigan is interested in Georgia signee Brady Marchese, wide receiver, who at one point in the summer looked like he could end up at Michigan. So that one is definitely one to watch. Outside of that, I don't think there's any other, new names that have popped up. Right, Ethan?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. It's that, and then just monitoring the 3 guys we haven't gotten the official word on yet.
Our day is in 2-4 versus UM. It says Hyder seems to be an issue. He's in East Coast and was there for the Ohio State game. Maybe he knows more is the issue. No, I mean, Hyder's not an issue at all. He's fine. And like I said, we expect him to sign during the early period. So, I'm not really certain what the delay was about, but as of right now, we're expecting him to sign with Michigan. Ray Norman 8145 also says, did Savion sign yet? Not yet, but again, we do expect him to do it during the early period. We are Charlie 1776 says, over under 20.5 questions about Savion. Yeah, we'll probably just skip the next ones. Let's see, we have Jeremy Eckel 3068. Any more on Calvin Russell? So like I said earlier, guys, Michigan is not planning for an all-out NIL run for Calvin Russell right now. That doesn't mean that Michigan couldn't change their minds if Zion Robinson decides to flip to Stanford or, something like that. But as of right now, there's only been preliminary interest, I guess. Again, we can't rule it out. But as of right now, they're not all in for Calvin Russell, which is why we're not making it like this, crazy deal. I don't know, Ethan, how do you feel about the Calvin Russell situation, especially since it was so kind of off-putting, I guess, this summer.
Yeah, I don't know if off-putting is the right word. I haven't talked to that many folks around Michigan about it, but it was definitely weird. I heard Steve Wilfong on the national show talking about it today, and like he had a press release like drawn up, right? Like about him committing to Michigan from his agent with quotes from him, his family, and the agent about coming to Michigan. And we reported I went into that decision pretty freaking optimistic. All of the intel was really optimistic, and then it stretched on, and then he ended up committing to Syracuse. I don't know. I mean, I think if you can retain Zion, then I think you're in a good spot. I think you take those wide receiver commits. Maybe take Brady if you think he's an attainable flip, and rock with that group. But I mean, where do you stand on it? Like, how would you do the same all in approach that Michigan did in the summer now for Calvin?
No. I would not. I would not. His stocks dropped a little bit, and I think Michigan's a really unique place, and that's all I'll pretty much say. We have a new super chat from Michelle Wallace who says, "I'm sorry, and I heard there was 3D commits who had 5 stars. Have they signed?" I'm not really sure what you're saying here, Michelle Wallace. We definitely appreciate the super chat. The 5 stars in this class are Savion Hyder and Carter Meadows. Carter Meadows signed, no issue, early in the morning. He was one of the first letters that came in. And Savion, like I said, we're still expecting his to come in here during the early period. John A. Schultz says, Ethan, how are you surviving your first Michigan signing day? Zion, Julian, Travis, Savion, all sorts of intrigue and craziness.
I mean, it's been pretty exciting. Lots of pacing around the living room, waiting for calls and texts back, and trying to keep you guys updated on the message board. If you're not already a member of the Fort and was a part of the just massive signing day thread we had today, like, you got to get in there, join the party, because it was a lot of fun. It was an all-timer. If you're not in there, you guys should have seen the reaction when EJ got to Travis's school, and then Clayton, our other reporter, posted that his phone was broken. It was just like a Murphy's Law sort of day, but then everything kind of turned tied back together nicely, and it's been exciting. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, this is part of the reason why you get into covering this sort of stuff, because weird things can happen. It's never boring, and even if you're like me and posting at 6 a.m. this morning that we're not really expecting much to happen today, it can all fall apart and come back together.
It definitely been more fun than expected going into the day. Tyler Williams 8676 says, not so much NIL or NLI question, but a recruiting question. Why did Brady Smeagol fall so much in the rankings and on your end? For me, I didn't see the progression that I really wanted to see from Brady Smeagol. He's a taller pocket passer with decent athleticism, but nothing that'll really make you, turn your head. He, I think, knows how to command an offense. He's a coach's son. He put up big numbers in a system that was very friendly to him. He can make, accurate throws, short to intermediate. He doesn't really have that high-end arm talent, especially relative to where he was ranked. Like early on, he was in that 5-star range. He's older for his grade, but I like Peter Bork despite the fact that he's older for his age, because he has some of those tools that Brady Smeagol doesn't. And when you look at Peter Bork, he is a true athlete, a true threat with his legs, and he does have the arm talent, in my opinion. I think that with Brady Smeagol, he was considered more of a high floor guy, and then he went out as a senior and had some issues turning the ball over. And then on top of that, he had the ACL injury, which obviously you never want to see a kid, suffer an injury, but I think that probably dropped his stock a little bit more. So those are kind of my thoughts on it. I really like the upside of a guy like Tommy Carr, and maybe Brady Smeagol can be a safe option who can contend, or at least contend for a starting job late in his career, and at the very least provide some much needed depth behind Bryce Underwood. So that's kind of my thoughts on Brady Smeagol. Ethan did get a chance to see him live this fall. And actually, the game that Ethan saw him in, he did do well.
Yeah, he threw for when I went to go see him. He played Pacifica High School, who is 15-0 this season. I looked that up, earlier this week. First of all, that is 15 games. That's a lot of games, but they're undefeated. One of the best defenses in California this year, and Brady had an awesome game where he threw for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. You're right. He struggled with turnovers early in the year, but that's with the caveat that he was, his team was missing their top 5 receivers due to California's transfer rules and injuries, and he was pressing. Him and his dad, who's also his head coach, talked to me about that, right? He was just trying to do too much. Yeah, I mean, what is that noise?
Dude, it's like some motorcycle gang is like outside of my window.
So, I mean, it's pretty well documented at this point. I'm not really aligned with the industry on Brady's evaluation. I'm pretty high on him as a prospect. I don't really see the arm talent concerns. I really liked what I saw out of him throwing, at every level of the field, especially, his deep ball accuracy really wowed me when I saw him live. And this senior season didn't go as he hoped, obviously. I mean, the first 5 weeks of the year, he's missing pretty much his entire receiver core, right? And then once they're back, then he tears his ACL. It's brutal. It just makes me very sad for him that it didn't work out the way they hoped. And, not getting the chance to turn that season around, I think that's what led to the rankings drop most likely. But I personally would have him very solidly as a 4-star. And, I'm cool with being against the recruiting industry there.
We do have John Gallagher 1056. He says, what's the news on Marky Walbridge? He's already signed. Malachi Lee has already signed as well. That was a big win for Michigan in the summer, a big win to keep him in the class as well. We had heard going into the Ohio State weekend that there was a potential that he was going to visit Texas low key. That visit didn't end up happening, and he did make it to the Big House for the game. Ethan, you've been handling the Malachi Lee recruitment for the most part. How big is this win for Michigan to keep him in the class?
Massive. I mean, Michigan went out to Hawaii to see him like 5 times this year. It's pretty clear that they wanted him. And, ranking aside, film aside, you just look at the schools that made him tip-top priority. Texas wanted him bad, man. Georgia wanted him bad. Alabama really wanted this guy. And at one point in the cycle, we were hearing, pretty significant buzz that Malachi did have a lot of interest in playing in the SEC. That's why confidence did wane a little bit as he went on his official visit tour. But, Grant Newsome did such a good job, just establishing those genuine connections from very early on. Secured the Victor's Weekend official visit because he went out there in January. And, it's a huge win. I saw an interview at his signing ceremony today. I forget who he was talking to out in Hawaii. I apologize. But he said the past couple of months had been tough because schools were coming after him pretty hard, trying to flip him, and keeping him in the class is massive. I mean, he's someone that's risen up the Rivals recruiting rankings in the past year. And that's with limited film that we've seen. And he could rise a lot more if he's going to be in the Navy All-American game. If he goes and balls out, I said this on our message board today. I wonder if he could kind of start to get close to a 5-star range up there.
We have Chronicle 23902 who says, can you tell us which commits that will be early enrollees? Well, we'll have a full list on the Wolverine once everybody signs, but I can tell you that some notable early enrollees that we've confirmed. Savion Hyder will be an early enrollee. Travis Johnson will be an early enrollee as well. Those are 2 impact guys. Is Julian Walker an early enrollee? So,
yeah.
If Julian Walker stays on board, he will be an impact early enrollee. I can tell you that Carter Meadows is not an early enrollee. I think a lot of people have asked that question. And normally, Gonzaga doesn't allow early enrollees. That's why Kainoa Winston didn't do it last cycle. So, unfortunately, Carter right now doesn't appear to be an early enrollee, but getting, assuming Julian Walker sticks, getting Walker, Savion, and Travis Johnson in as some premier early enrollees, definitely a positive for the Wolverines. Anthony Broom says, send your super chats in so EJ can get a new phone. Yeah, man. Like I said, this phone has survived the drop, the person backing out on it, but it's not in good shape. In fact, it just glitched during the show. And I'm like, man, can you just survive another 24 hours? Also, we have more than 500 people watching live right now. So, there's no reason we shouldn't have 500 likes. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos. And like I said at the beginning of the show, take advantage of our deal at thewolverine.com. Come join the discussion, get the latest intel coming out of National Signing Day at thewolverine.com. $1 for 2 days. It's the perfect 2 days to get that subscription. All right, let's scroll down. Ryan Gage, P1K, says Finney didn't sign either. Actually, Hayden Finney did sign with LSU. He was originally supposed to delay his decision as he waited for to see what LSU was going to do with secondary coach Corey Raymond. Obviously, LSU just hired a new head coach in Lane Kiffin, but he has decided to sign with LSU. So, I know, Ethan, you were on top of that one as well. Were you surprised that Finney, I guess, decided to go ahead and just sign?
Not really, man. I mean, I think it became pretty clear that while there was real interest, mutual interest between him and Michigan, I think his heart was set on LSU from the start. And, happy for him and his family that that's going to work out. He's going to get to go where he wants. Michigan definitely did everything they could. Lamar Morgan did a great job building a relationship with their family. But Haven was a kid that wanted to be a Tiger, and I'm just happy for him that worked out.
All right, Jeremy Eckel says, is Marky Walbridge and Malachi Lee, are they more guards or tackles? In my opinion, Lee's a true tackle. Michigan did recruit Marky as a tackle. I think he can play there, but I also think he has the versatility to play some guard as well. Your thoughts, Ethan?
Yeah, same. I think both could move inside potentially, but I definitely like Lee more at tackle.
John Gallagher 1056 says, how about Jalen Pyle? For me, it's the same as the industry rankings, I guess. Every service has Jalen Pyle ranked as a 3-star. I think he's a kid who consistently gets open underneath. He shows a very natural pass catching ability. He's a guy who can be a favorable target and a safety blanket for most quarterbacks, but I think he lacks the high-end speed and isn't much of a plus athlete. I think Michigan has recruited a lot of similar wide receivers recently. So, to me, I agree with, all the recruiting services. A lot of people, I think, have tried to make out my opinion to be an outlier or something, but it's just the same as all the recruiting services. Everybody has him ranked as a 3-star. I don't know if you feel differently about Pyle, Ethan.
I mean, outside the top 1,000 is ridiculous. Like, I mean, I think he is a really, really good route runner. I think he has the frame to make plays after the catch and good hands and puts up big numbers, in Texas and his league. I'm going to a state championship game on Friday. I'll be there with full coverage, so I'll get an in-person evaluation there. I think he's undervalued right now by the recruiting services, and I'd like to see a small bump, especially an 85 from 247. I think that's absurd, but it is what it is. That's not going to matter in a few weeks, right?
I think when you get into the mid and low 3-star range, it becomes difficult for the industry calculation to sort guys out. But I do think he's probably, more of a mid 3 stars, probably where Rivals has him ranked, I guess, is where I would go. They have him ranked slightly higher than 24/7. But yeah, I mean, I think he can be a decent depth piece, but I'm not sure if he'll have a different trajectory than a guy like the Marion Stewart or Channing Goodwin or Samaj Morgan, guys that have been very similar that Michigan has landed. Rebel May says, Savion not going to sign or what? Guys, we have told you we still expect Savion Eider to sign with Michigan during the early period, probably, at some point tomorrow. People are still saying that Finney did not sign. He did sign, as pointed out by Jeremy Eckel. He signed with LSU. Let's go down and see. Okay, some people might have missed it earlier in the show, Ethan, but can you just kind of reiterate what you had to say on Julian Walker?
Yeah, like we said earlier, I think the next few hours are really critical. Him postponing to Thursday was not a surprise. We found out about that last night, but we're asked to keep it quiet until it was reported elsewhere, and then we ran with it as well. But UNC is kind of the wild card. Came on late. Bill Belichick has been in contact with Julian directly today, and they're putting chips to the center of the table. They are going all in on Julian Walker. So I do think that has had an impact, and I think that has made them more of a contender than I previously thought they were. I thought I've been saying for months that this is a South Carolina and Michigan race. UNC has, entered the mix with this push today, but I still think it'll end up coming down to either, the South Carolina, the school his dad coaches at, or Michigan, the school he's committed to. At the end of the day, that's how I think it'll work out. And we could know a decision as soon as tonight. He will not announce it till tomorrow, but privately they're hoping to make a decision either tonight or early tomorrow morning. So this won't stretch on that much longer. They don't want it to stretch on that much longer. They want to reach a final decision here pretty soon.
Well, Databerry says, is Savion signing today at least? When we say the early signing period, the early signing period actually goes until Friday. But we are expecting a Savion decision to come at some point in the next 24 hours. Lawrence Bryons 1085 says, any players you see not signing early thinking of Michigan? Also, who do you think will make a splash their freshman year? On the first part, we'll have to see who's left after all the dust settles. So, I don't know who's going to remain unsigned after the early period. In terms of who I think Michigan or who will have a splash their freshman year, I think it's obvious Michigan needs help at the wide receiver position. So I think Travis Johnson is the easy answer there. I mean, he's one of the biggest playmakers in this class. He's an early enrollee. He can have an Andrew Marsh-like impact for Michigan as a true freshman. Ethan, who would be your take?
I think pick your favorite pass rusher, whether it's, Julian Walker or Carter Meadows, Mikhail Blade, whoever you think has the best shot to play early. I think they've put together a really good edge class. Tariq Boney in there as well. I think one of those guys ends up in the rotation at least next year and is making plays.
Well, Ethan, Matt Pugh 5031 says kicker info. Michigan did sign a kicker today, Micah Drescher.
Number one kicker in the country, according to Chris Saylor. Micah Drescher, got an offer earlier this year and committed quickly to Michigan. Visited in the spring, and then just been locked in. I talked to Chris Saylor about him. He raved about the guy. He's a Navy All-American, so Michigan went out and got the best kicker available, and I'm actually not sure if he's an early enrollee or not, but maybe he has a shot to come in and compete for the job.
Well, they also signed one of the best long snappers in the country, Colton Dermer, as well. Michigan obviously parting ways with J.B. Brown, so but they still landed some quality specialists in this class. Lee's Perzavia 8180 says, is there a position group that's improved from a recruiting sense since Sharon Moore took over? Well, I think the hiring of Tony Alford has dramatically improved running back recruiting. I think I've gotten a lot of flack for my takes on Mike Hart, who obviously was a great coach and a great player at Michigan, but really lacked on the recruiting trail. I think Tony Alford's been a massive upgrade there. And as long as Savion Hyder signs tomorrow, that'll continue to ring true. He's, set Michigan up with to be in a position for success with a lot of these underclassmen. He built a great relationship with Savion as an underclassman. Savion wouldn't be at Michigan, I don't think, without Tony Alford. Mike Hart was the area recruiter in Virginia and didn't offer Savion Hyder. So, I think Tony Alford's been a massive upgrade. So therefore, I think running back recruiting has gotten better since Sherrone Moore took over. And even you look at the roster, like, yes, Mike Hart did land Jordan Marshall, but all of his other running back takes, they're no longer on the roster. So, I think Alford's done a great job given the room to work with. Ethan, would you go with a different position?
I mean, I think quarterback's the obvious one, right? I mean, you get Bryce Underwood,
Yeah.
and then, but even after Bryce, I mean, I think they've done a really good job solidifying the future. You bring in Smeagol and Tommy Carr, and I mean, I think that's a great duo for the 26 class. Really, really like Peter Bork in the 27 class. And then they're in a great spot right now, really early on, for Donald Tabor in the second out of Cass Tech in Detroit. So I think the quarterback situation has definitely taken a step up. I don't think that room will ever get to the point where it was in 24, at least not anywhere in the near future.
C-Note 3716 says, could we get some elite linebackers from the portal? I'm concerned about this position. I think that will definitely be a position that they will target in the portal. Unlike last year, the portal doesn't open right after signing day, so we'll probably have more names closer to when it does open, which right now the date is January 2nd. Let's see if we can scroll down and see if we have any other questions. It looks like we do. Caleb BX Geek Bar says, is Michigan looking to flip anyone the next couple of days? Like we said, the only one we're now starting to track is Georgia wide receiver commit Brady Marchese. So, we'll see what we can track down there. Jason Wilbur says, since this class isn't NIL heavy necessarily, will Michigan give Walker the bag to sign? Going into his visit this weekend, and again, Ethan's had all types of updates on it, but going into the visit this weekend, I think Michigan was very aware of the NIL push from North Carolina, as well as what South Carolina is willing to do in that arena. They're no stranger to facing South Carolina and seeing that happen. They obviously had it with Nick Harbor, or even to a lesser extent, Dylan Stewart. So I think they were prepared. I think they made their pitch from an NIL standpoint. I think they've been very open with that with Julian. I think with this recruitment, it's not necessarily all NIL, but obviously it is a factor. Anything else you want to add there, Ethan?
No, you covered it. I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor one way or the other in his recruitment, but of course, it's always notable, especially when other schools involved are definitely ponying up the push, like UNC.
Yeah, unless North Carolina just does something insane.
Yeah, which we'll see. It seems like they're going all out, like I said earlier.
Let's see. Tom Remy 9724 says, who will sign Najee Harris? Well, he is long gone. Gregory Cooper says, not so much recruiting question, but do you know why Jaden Davis did not get more playing time this year? I don't think Jaden Davis is, a very capable starting quarterback. So I think that Michigan will have to continue exploring what they can do behind Bryce Underwood. The good news is I think the quarterbacks, like Peter Bork coming in 2027, I think that will really benefit Michigan. And if they're able to get Donald Tabor in 2028, I think that'll solidify the position moving forward. Deep Ikari says, what people do you think Moore will target? I think he's talking about coaches. And I guess right now there's only one opening, so we're just going to have to see, what other openings there are. The Lone Wolf 1921 says, any word on potential transfer targets, Nick Marsh, Ryan Wingo? Like I said, the portal doesn't officially open until January 2nd, so we won't shift into portal mode until closer to then, especially since we still have 2 days of the early signing period and some craziness still going on. And it looks like we have our last question from Tom Remy 9724, who says, which school will sign Travis Hornback Tipper? He's the best player in Clarkston County, Maine. I've been waiting for Michigan to get a recruit from Maine just because I want to go up to that national park that they have up there. But I have never heard of Hornback Tipper. Have you, Ethan?
No.
We'll have to look up if Hornback Tipper is real. But on that strange note, it's been a strange day. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos. And as always, take advantage of our deal over at thewolverine.com. $1 for 2 days gets you exclusive insider information as we await the final decisions of 5-star running back Savion Hyder, 4-star wide receiver Zion Robinson, and top 100 edge Julian Walker. We're in for some more fun tomorrow, so tonight's the night to subscribe to thewolverine.com, and we will see you guys at some point.